Okay, we're going to continue practicing solving word problems using estimating, which is rounding. And some of these are going to be multi-step problems. So I'm going to demonstrate on this one how to solve a multi-step problem and what that looks like. So let's read this problem. Sebastian has 3 race cars. One race car is 59 centimeters long. The second race car is 92 centimeters long. The third race car is 127 centimeters long. What is the best estimate for the total length of all 3 race cars? Okay, so then let's gather our numbers. Let's put our information together. What is the length of the first car? The first car has a length of 59 centimeters. And I'm going to round that number to the nearest 10. So 59 rounded to the nearest 10, I would look at my tens place value is what we're rounding to. So I'm going to look at my ones place value to help me determine where we're rounding, if we're going to round up or round down. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, up the score. So 9 is going to be more than 5. So I'm going to up the score, which means my 5 has to do some work, and it turns into a 60. What is the length of the second car? 92 centimeters. I'm going to round that again, rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm going to look at my tens place. Then I'm going to look at my ones place to help me determine. 4 or less, let it rest. 2 is less than 4. That means my 9 doesn't have to do anything. It gets to be lazy. It stays the same. And everything else becomes a 0. So 92 rounds to 90. What is the length of the third car? The third car is 127 centimeters. And I'm rounding to the nearest 10. Now remember, this has 3 digits. So we have a hundreds, a tens, and a ones. So I'm rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm going to look at my tens place value. And then I'm going to look at my ones to help me determine. 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, up the score. 7 is going to be more than 5. So that means that my 2 is going to have to do some work. 130. Everything after the place value that you're rounding to is going to change to a 0. Anything before stays the same. So the 7 tells my 2 to move up. So my 2 becomes a 3. My 100 stays the same, but my 7 turns to a 0. Okay, are we going to add or subtract? How do we know? Well, it wants us to find the total length of all 3 cars. So I want the length of all my cars put together. We are going to add. I am going to add because the question is asking for a total length. It's important that the question is asking for a total length because sometimes in your story problem you'll see the word total, but just because it's in the story problem does not mean that it's asking you to add. You need to make sure you understand what the question is asking you. So here's my strip diagram down here. And you notice that I have 3 boxes instead of 2 like you have been seeing. That's because we have 3 different categories or 3 different parts, because part 1 is the first race car, and that's 60 centimeters, and that's car number 1. The second car rounds to 90 centimeters. And the third car rounds to 130 centimeters. This would be my total length of all 3 cars. That's what your strip diagram would look like. Okay, now I'm going to add these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, sorry. This 90, this should be a 90. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 130. 100, 10, 20, 30. Okay, now we have a lot of 10s here, okay? There's a lot of 10s. So I'm going to regroup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All I did was stack them on top of each other. I grouped 10 10s, so now I'm going to add 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7 10s, and I have 2 hundreds. So the total length of all of the cars would be 270 centimeters.